My name is Lydia Ngugi, and I am the head of MTCC Africa. I take this opportunity to welcome you all to this very important session, as we are as well on the margins of the International Women's Day that is taking place tomorrow. This webinar, as earlier highlighted, is titled Women in Maritime Navigating Decarbonization. We are happy and we are keen as well to give notice of the presence of our able donors from the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. I take this opportunity to appreciate the immense support from the Transport General Authority of the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia that is represented by Mr. Kamal Al-Juadi, who is the General Manager of Maritime Transport Policies and International Organizations Affairs at the Transport General Authority, Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. They are the funders of the IMO CARES program. We also appreciate and note the presence of the International Maritime Organization that is represented by the IMO PCU under the IMO CARES program. At this juncture, we will now move to the opening remarks, where we shall have a brief slideshow of all the participants, and then the session will commence. Thank you very much and welcome.
Greetings, everyone, and I hope you're all having a good morning, good afternoon, and good evening from where you're joining us from. It is a privilege for me to extend a warm welcome and set the stage for the opening remarks. My name is Ruth Mbeyu from MTCC Africa, and it is with great pleasure that I introduce Madam Ambassador Nancy Karegesu, who serves as a special envoy and advisor in the Office of the President on Blue Economy and Maritime from the Republic of Kenya, to give her opening remarks. Welcome, Madam Nancy Karegesu.
So let me start by congratulating the MTCC Africa with the support of IMO for organizing this forum, but also most important for having me, despite the logistical challenges that I had explained. And before I go on, let me wish you all a happy International Women's Day tomorrow in advance. And let it not be thought that I'm forgetting our brothers in the room. Thank you for being bold enough to join us. Now, in line with the theme for this year's International Women's Day, let me start by saying that despite the promise of gender equality as clearly provided for in SDG 5, progress towards this goal in the maritime sector has been rather slow. And things are not changing as fast as we would like, particularly when we take note of the latest maritime labor reports from ITF and BIMCO, which tell us that out of 1.89 million seafarers globally, only 24,059 of those are women, which means that therefore half or 51% of humanity is represented by less than 2%, with 94% of those that work in the maritime sector, that 2% seafarers work in the cruise industry, which tells us that our work is not yet done, and there is lots of room for improvement. We have absolutely no shortage of talent and leadership qualities that the industry needs among the female gender, because as you can see from this meeting, we don't have lack of the pool to draw from, because it means that whoever is here today, there's more that we can draw on. With a predicted shortage approaching 89,000 officers in the next 3 years, we have our work cut out for us in order to ensure that we improve on that low or almost negligible representation of women in the sector. Now, climate change is a global reality that affects every corner of the world. And in the last century, we've seen a rise in carbon dioxide levels right across the globe. And this has reversed food patterns, occasioned adverse weather conditions, caused sporadic wildfires, sea level rise, and coral bleaching, among others. And we want to thank IMO for the leadership role that the organization has taken in helping us understand, first of all, the role of the shipping industry and the contribution it has made towards these deleterious conditions, and also taking leadership in coming up with the measures that we need in order to address that situation. We believe, or I believe, that women can and do play a key role in addressing one of the major issues that's affecting us, and that is decarbonization. Be we policymakers or wherever else role we can play, because we've got women naval architects, we've got marine engineers, we've got other women playing other key roles, both inshore and offshore. Ladies and gentlemen, gender equality is a fundamental condition to achieve a just and efficient transition to a decarbonized shipping sector. And in this transition, the participation of women cannot be understated. And a successful inclusion of women in the sector will mean achieving greater diversity and complementarity, as well as expanding the pool of talent to better address the demand for skills. Although varying along with differences in socioeconomic and cultural settings, there are specific opportunities for women. And as Oprah Winfrey once said, challenges are gifts that force us to search for a new center of gravity. We don't fight them, we just find a way to stand. And this is what we must do as industry stalwarts and as people who have a role to play in setting the tone, setting the policies that we need. So we need to start by addressing the issues of training in order to make concerted efforts to address one, and in order to address the theme of today, inspiring inclusion of women in the decarbonization of the maritime sector. This is crucial, and I want to propose that we must intentionally work towards that. We've been warned by the ILO that there is an elevated risk that decarbonizing the economies will not only confirm the current gender gap if we do not take considerable efforts, and therefore narrowing gender segregation in the educational and occupational level is an imperative. And like I have indicated, one of the factors contributing to this occupational segregation, particularly in our side of economies, is certainly the underrepresentation of women in STEM fields, that is science, technology, engineering, and maths, at advanced career levels, that is in graduates and research, which remains a major concern. And we need to start addressing this one, because ultimately it translates to limitation in the pool of talent when it comes to choosing careers, and the maritime sector is thus affected. The role of self-perception in shaping educational and professional choices is very relevant, as the gender gap in STEM fields starts forming when different career paths are chosen for boys and girls as young as 15 years. Thereby, studies show that gender segregation across disciplines is favored by widespread stereotypes and prejudices towards scientific subjects in schools, as well as in family, as well as in society in general. So this is something that we must look at. Moreover, the lack of female role models tends to reinforce such segregation. We need, therefore, a mapping of professionally engaged women. We need, in recruitment, interviews that are focused on attitudes, roles, and professional positions and competences, instead of other biases that tend to get into the room in the interview. It is also crucial to analyze gender equality in the sector against the backdrop of general economic and political environments. Now, I want to conclude by saying that the maritime industry is on the cusp of such a major transition, the one to cleaner fuels, and we need a complete transformation of society then in the entire chain from production to distribution and consumption in the global supply chain. And this is an enormous task that will not be accomplished without the full participation of everyone, all the members of society, and that includes women. We believe they have an important role to play. There seems to be widespread agreement that gender equality is a fundamental condition to achieve a just and efficient transition to a low carbon economy, and the successful inclusion of women in the sector will mean achieving greater diversity and complementarity, as well as expanding the pool of talent to better address the demand for skills that the industry needs. And I'm wishing us all very fruitful discussions today and hope that at the end of the day and for this year's World Maritime Day, we shall have inspired to a great level the inclusion of women in this sector, because it will make the industry work better by bringing effectively together a range of diverse voices and perspectives across the teams, which will be better placed then to be innovative, take risks, solve problems creatively, and most important, turn challenges into opportunities, which is something that women are very strong at. I thank you, ladies and gentlemen, and wish you very fruitful discussions for the day. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Ambassador Nancy Karukiza, for the very inspiring message. And following the insightful comments and address from the Ambassador, Madam Nancy Karukiza, it is with great pleasure that I introduce our Vice Chancellor, Professor Victoria Ngumi, from the Jomo Kenyatta University of Agriculture and Technology, who will be sharing her insights with us through our video address. Welcome, Professor VC.
Distinguished participants, esteemed guests, ladies and gentlemen, I'm profoundly honored to address this virtual workshop on women in maritime, navigating decarbonization. This gathering, organized by the Maritime Technology Cooperation Center for Africa, MTCC Africa, underscores the pivotal role of women in shaping the future of maritime decarbonization. Under the theme, Empower Her Voyage, we embark on a journey towards a more sustainable, equitable, and inclusive maritime industry. I commend the International Maritime Organization, IMO, for its commitment to reducing emissions from shipping through initiatives such as the IMO CARES program. This program, supported by the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, signifies a crucial step towards achieving global greenhouse gas emissions reduction targets and advancing sustainability in the maritime sector. Our discussion today resonates deeply with the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals, SDGs, particularly Goal 5 and 13, which emphasize gender equity and climate action. As we navigate the challenges of decarbonization, it is imperative to recognize the interconnectedness of these goals and strive for holistic solutions that leave no one behind. However, despite our collective aspirations, significant challenges persist. Women continue to face barriers in fully participating in maritime decarbonization efforts. These challenges, ranging from limited access in resources to gender biases in leadership, underscore the urgency of our mission. The objectives set forth by the IMO CARES Project align closely with addressing these challenges. By fostering collaboration, supporting innovation, and promoting gender inclusivity, we can accelerate progress towards a greener and more equitable maritime industry. Through initiatives like this webinar, JKUAT-based Maritime Technology Cooperation Center for Africa, MTCC Africa, aims to build partnerships, design integrated programs, and enhance communication strategies with a specific focus on women. By addressing the unique needs and perspectives of women in maritime decarbonization, we can unlock untapped potential and drive meaningful change. The challenges faced by women in maritime decarbonization are multifaceted and require a concerted effort to overcome. From limited access to training and education to entrenched stereotypes and biases, these obstacles hinder not only individual advancement, but also the industry's overall sustainability. The agenda for this workshop reflects our commitment to comprehensive and inclusive dialogue. From exploring women's contributions to technology to discussing the underrepresentation of women in decision-making roles, each session offers valuable insights and opportunities for collaboration. I extend my gratitude to the esteemed panelists, moderators, and participants who have joined us today. Your expertise, perspectives, and commitment to gender equality and sustainability are essential as we navigate the complexities of maritime decarbonization. In closing, let us seize this moment to empower women in maritime decarbonization, recognizing their invaluable contributions and addressing the challenges they face. Together, let us chart a course towards a more sustainable, inclusive, and prosperous maritime industry for generations to come. Thank you.
We go to the next speaker, who is Mr. Anton Rhodes. Mr. Anton Rhodes is the project manager of the IMO CARES International Maritime Organization. Please welcome Mr. Anton Rhodes to give your opening remarks. Thank you.
Great. Ruth, thanks very much. Ladies and gentlemen, esteemed guests, a very warm welcome to this IMO CARES event. Launched in April 23 and generously funded by the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, the IMO CARES project is devoted to assisting developing countries, particularly small island developing states and least developed countries, in achieving IMO's energy efficiency and GHG reduction objectives. So this is achieved through collaboration among various stakeholders with the overarching goal of accelerating the uptake of energy efficient technologies. And of course, the CARES project is also focused on helping to support IMO's broader objectives on gender diversity. And on this subject, IMO has been making a concerted effort to help the industry move forward and support women to achieve a representation that is aligned with 21st century expectations. For example, through its Women in Maritime program, under the slogan Training, Visibility, Recognition, IMO has taken a strategic approach towards enhancing the contribution of women as key maritime stakeholders. And it's part of this wider IMO initiative that today's event has been organized. So this workshop serves as a platform for knowledge sharing and collaboration, and discussions today will focus on the inclusion of women in maritime decarbonization, and of course we'll sort of delve into the specific requirements of the Africa region. In closing, and on behalf of the IMO, I'd like to extend my gratitude to Mr. Kamal Al-Junaidi, Transport General Authority, Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, Professor Victoria Ngumi, Vice Chancellor J.K. Watt, Ambassador Nancy Karigthu, Special Envoy and Advisor, Republic of Kenya, and to all participants for joining this event. Together, let us continue to support and play vital roles in shaping a more sustainable, gender inclusive, and environmentally aware maritime industry. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Anton Rhodes, for the wonderful message. Now, building on the momentum of Mr. Anton Rhodes' insights, I am thrilled to extend a warm welcome to our esteemed guest, Mr. Kamal Al-Junaidi, the General Manager of the Marine Transport Policies and International Organization Affairs at the Transport General Authority from the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. Welcome, Mr. Kamal Al-Junaidi.
Thank you Ruth for the introduction. Good afternoon, good morning, and Assalamu alaikum from Riyadh, the capital of Saudi Arabia. By being here in this esteemed webinar, that's showing that we are on the right track to empowering women in the maritime sector. So it's a pleasure to have the opportunity to address this important event, supporting women in decarbonization. And on behalf of the Transport General Authority and the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, and would like to thank the IMO, the ITCB, and the dedicated IMO CARES team for their continued dedication to making this project a tangible success. So I would like to especially thank Anton, Petra, and Krish. Additionally, I would like to express our appreciation for the ongoing support of Mrs. Lydia Nigogi for her dedicated effort, and for the MTCC Africa, which remains a valuable platform to bring together stakeholders and advance efforts toward a greener and more inclusive industry. Definitely, IMO CARES aims to advance global efforts in reducing shipping emissions by promoting technology-focused partnerships and knowledge sharing. To achieve this, we must work together to understand the issues, opportunities surrounding the maritime decarbonization. This workshop definitely will provide a unique opportunity to hear from the unique experiences of those in the industry leading the charge, who are also at the forefront of incorporating women in the transition to a low carbon future. Although women in the maritime are still only a small percentage in the industry, and developing participation remains an ongoing challenge. However, we believe women remain an essential to ensuring a successful transition to decarbonization can take place and be sustainable. The entry of women in this field presents a unique opportunity to expand the workforce and unlock the change makers who will be driving force behind decarbonization to achieve the UN Sustainable Development Goals, especially number 5, gender equality, and goal number 13, climate action. I encourage everyone to make sure gender equality is a fundamental condition in the transition of the decarbonization of the shipping sector. This work is in line with Vision 2030 of the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia roadmap toward achieving diversification of the economy, as well as women's empowerment and youth engagement, which are top priorities of social reform. We would therefore like to sincerely thank you for your continued support for the IMO CARES initiative as we work towards building a strategic framework to promote technology transfer and maritime decarbonization. And definitely, as the esteemed panel before me highlight, that we look forward for this fruitful discussion during the day. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, sir, for these wonderful highlights that you've given us. And now, thank you all for the opening remarks. And now I go to the first session of the day, whereby the moderator for the day is for the first session on women's inclusion in the development of decarbonization policies and measures, where the moderator for the day, for that session of the day, is Ms. Lydia Ngugi, head of MTCC Africa. Thank you all.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the first session. That is the first panel session. Welcome. As you can see on the screen, we have Dr. Harry Conway, who is the alternative permanent representative of the Liberian Mission. He is also the chair of the Marine Environmental Protection Committee, the International Maritime Organization. In addition to this, we have Madam Ramat Jallo from the International Maritime Law Institute in Malta, where she is in the capacity of a lecturer. We as well have Madam Anene Wodajo, who is the president of the Association for Women in the Maritime Sector in East and Southern Africa. Last but not least, we have the representation of the president of Women in Maritime of Western Central Africa, represented by Ms. Sylvia Asana Awo. Thank you very much. And we will soon have the panelists on the screen and embark on this very exciting session one. Thank you. As you can see, we are ready for this navigation journey. And I will embark with the question where I will give the honor to Mr. Harry Conway, taking note that he is in support of the Women in Decarbonization Initiative. Mr. Harry Conway, and I must also note that he is Dr. Harry Conway. So, Dr. Harry Conway, as you may be aware, one of the most important outcomes of MEPC 80 was the adoption of the 2023 IMO GHG strategy. I note that this forum's objective is to intertwine the strategy with respect to how women can be brought on board. Therefore, in this respect, what roles can women play towards attaining the immediate targets, that is the 2030, 2040, or near net zero targets of 2050, taking note that the MEPC meeting 81 is around the corner? How can women be brought on board? Thank you.
Thank you, Lydia. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Fantastic. Thanks to distinguished panelists and thanks to the organizers for having me here. This is a very important program. And so I'm delighted that I can at least share my knowledge and experience, both as a delegate and of course as chair of the Marine Environment Protection Committee. And as you quite correctly stated, I'm sure the reason for this decarbonization panel today is because of the 2023 IMO GHG strategy that we adopted in July at MEPC 80. And based on that strategy, we expect to adopt measures to ensure that international shipping decarbonize. If we are to, do that to achieve these targets that we have set for ourselves, both the intermediate targets, 2030 and the 2040 and then 2050, women got to play some role, critical role. The question is, what role can women play and where do they start from? Currently taking place, as you may be aware, MEPC 80 mandated two things. One, we are at the stage now where we are trying to discuss the midterm measures, both technical and economic, that we must put in place if we are to meet our goals. Number two, there's what they call the impact assessment, on the other hand, of states of the measures to be adopted, which is currently ongoing. So in terms of role women can play, I first like to start from what I refer to as a kind of general statement or from a general perspective, because we are talking about an industry, which is the maritime sector, that women, are not quite represented. It's a sector that is male-dominated. On the other hand, it's a sector that seems to be obscured from the general population. People, if you talk about shipping or you talk about maritime, people are, what is maritime, what is shipping? So I think the first step we need as an industry or as a sector is to create the necessary awareness about the opportunities that exist within the maritime space for the general population and for women in particular. How can we ensure that we tell women there are opportunities that exist that will not discriminate against them on the one hand, and that will make them feel safe and comfortable to walk in on the other? Once we do that, I'm sure we have significantly taken a step forward to ensuring that women play a critical role in whatever we do in terms of decarbonization. Coming to the decarbonization discourse itself, these are discussions. So what we need to start from is, as a sector, probably as national delegations, is to ensure you have appropriate representation of women on the delegations that are coming to the IMO meetings. One. Two, at the various national maritime administrations globally, of course, on the African continent where we are, what level of women do we have within managerial positions or executive management positions, making positions? How many NASA Kirigitu are there on the continent? We need more of such people that will champion the cause of women participation in maritime discourse generally, and of course decarbonization in particular. And I'm sure women have the requisite knowledge, expertise. All they need is the opportunity and that safe environment in which to work in, to express themselves and make their own fair contribution. With the array of women present here, the level of intelligence on display here, how can we tap into this knowledge to bring that into the maritime sector, into this discourse on decarbonization, to make sure that women play a particular role or important role? I would say not just a particular role, but a very important role. Is critical. I like the fact that Ambassador Kerry get to talk about the issue of STEM, science, technology, engineering, and of course, math. That boils down to training. When we talk about shipping and people thinking about bringing in women, more people trying to look at issue of seafaring. There are more opportunities beyond it. A woman going to become seafarers. So this maritime decarbonization, eventually there has to be some level of transition to vessels that are highly technical on the one hand, that do less emission. They require very skilled, trained personnel to operate and manage. Women can also take advantage of all the opportunities that will be on display in the sector.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Dr. Harry, and I give you the opportunity to conclude.
Yeah, so basically to conclude, as I would say, women will play an important role. So the role they will be playing, the impact assessment that states are carrying on the measures to be adopted. Our advice that particular attention is paid to how it's going to impact on women's own participation in the entire process. By that way, we'll know what kind of actions or what kind of training to provide for women to ensure that they are taking part in decarbonization exercise. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Dr. Harry, for the very noble remarks that you have given us that touch on the impact assessment and women involvement, especially now that we are looking towards having women on board in decarbonization and as we're gearing towards the MEPC 81. Taking note of the need for women involvement, I see that we have Madam Ramat from the International Maritime Law Institute. And as a trainer in the field of international maritime law, what in your estimation can be done to enhance women's inclusion if we can tie it down to what Dr. Harry has highlighted in the development of the decarbonization policies and measures? Welcome and thank you for having us.
Thank you so much, Lydia. Thank you, everyone, panelists, colleagues, everyone online. I would start exactly where Dr. Conway ended when he said that when we talk about women or jobs within the maritime industry, it's not just talking about seafarers. There's so many other possible treasured positions available in the industry where women can find a place in. And this brings me to women's contribution towards policy making and measures, knowing that policies really are a course of action, principles that have been proposed. And when we talk about measures, these are plan of courses of action that needs to be taken in particular. Both of these need legislation to give it force. So the key here, because policies are not in themselves binding. And so when we talk about the contribution women can make in policies and in other measures in respect of enhancing women's visibility in decarbonization, we find that women's role is very key. When we look at the IMO audit observations, they tell us the focus is that there are lack of policies in many countries where the audit has been taking place, and the lack of implementing legislation. And this stems often not because of lack of human resources, but the pointer here is that there is a lack of human resource in national administration, which may not fully appreciate the intricacies of international law. And sometimes even when they do understand international law, the relevant skills to transform international conventions and legal instrument into domestic law, effectively giving them a binding effect, and by also providing sanctions and implementation remains very important and lacking. So as a trainer at IMLI, this is an institution that's been dedicated to capacity, enhancing capacity building for over 35 years now. And we take an interactive approach to capacity building. We prepare, we teach the whole spectrum of international maritime law. My colleague mentioned bringing, shedding light into the maritime industry. Not just women are unaware of the maritime industry or shipping, but also it is a general thing that people are not conversant with the maritime industry in itself. So it is here shedding light on the issues of international maritime law, and I speak from the perspective of a trainer at IMI, that we deal with law, and we deal with also policies in our studies, and we also prepare the national human resources who will go back to their national administrations to administer the law fully and with the technique of implementing policies, legislation, and international conventions. Now, in this interactive approach, we realize that inclusiveness is very important, because decarbonization is a goal, the achievement of which we all have a role to play. Women cannot be marginalized in this because we're women. They have to be a part of the discussions where the policies are being formulated, where the measures are being adopted, where the laws are being made. My colleague also mentioned participation in IMO meetings where negotiations and adoption of instruments, legal instruments that are binding, where they are discussed. So it is very important that women are being trained in this capacity. At IMLI, what we do is that we have trained women. We have a system where we have reserved 50% of our places for deserving women to train in these areas. And so we build a capacity in all of these areas, training women not only in the whole spectrum of international law, but also giving them the technical know-how, how to transform these policies and measures into their domestic law to give them enforcement. And so that is a very important way that women in themselves can perform or be a part in the decarbonization process. Now, we realize that this is a concerted effort to protect the planet. And when women are part of the decision-making body, when women take their place in decision-making, we see that the policies that are formulated, the laws are more inclusive, and women speak to their needs when these policies are being done. So it is important for women to be trained in these matters of policies, legislation, and measures. Thank you very much. I'll stop here for now, Ms. Ngugi.
Thank you very much, Ms. Ramat, for the highlight that you've given us, including giving us some of the aspects that IMLI looks into when looking into decarbonization implementation and how the future can be developed for sustainable development. And now we move to the next panelist, and the next panelist is Madam Asana. And to Madam Asana, the question that we very well are eager to hear is, how can we help champion policies and measures relating to decarbonization? I repeat, how can we help champion policies and measures relating to decarbonization? Thank you.
Good morning, good afternoon, everyone, and thank you, Lydia, for inviting us to this very important program. I bring you greetings from the women in Maritime, West and Central Africa, and of course, I commend you and your team for this wonderful program. Indeed, WIMOCA, I must say, is a creation of the IMO. And when Anton was talking, he mentioned that IMO has set up a Women in Maritime Association. And of course, WIMOCA is one of them. It's a platform where we have women with various expertise within the maritime industry coming together to promote and empower women in the maritime sector. And of course, these are women that are experts in their own field. These are women who have special expertise that the industry can tap into. These are women who can serve as role models for women in the industry and even for the young ones who are coming up. So we believe that the women that we have in our association are women who who perform various roles in their respective organizations, and some of them are even decision-making women in where they are, So definitely, we are of the view that our women who are well-placed in some of these organizations can help in the formulation of policies that relate to decarbonization. Even apart from that, we believe that when it comes to implementation of some of the policies that will be formulated, we can have some of our women championing these policies in their respective countries. So we are of the view that, yes, we have women within the industry, and the IMO has given us the platform to come together, and with the requisite training and capacity building, of course, we'll be able to deliver. Because when you talk about decarbonization, it's implemented in various aspects. We're talking about, when we even talk about e-ports, we've been talking about smart ports, where you will need the involvement of women as well as men in the implementation of certain policies. So we have the women who can assist in the implementation of these policies. But of course, as an association, we also believe in advocacy, to play the advocacy role in championing the policies to promote decarbonization. So it is important, as we talk about having the women who can promote this agenda, we also need to build capacity, and have the requisite training and capacity to be able to promote the agenda. So as much as we have some of them promoting who are skilled enough to do this kind of job, and the platform is being created for us to take advantage of the opportunities, the various opportunities within the sector. I also think that it is very important for us to have the requisite training, ongoing training and capacity building to be able to deliver as we should. Yeah, that's very important. I don't know, would you be asking more questions, or I have to continue to talk about what we're doing going forward?
Thank you. Thank you very much, Madam Asana, for the drive and the enthusiasm that you're having to make this session very interesting. I will definitely come back to you with the next question that we have. And for now, we shall move to Madam Anene. And for Madam Anene, the question that I have for you is, what is the role of WOMESA, and that is WOMESA Eastern Central Africa, East Africa and South Africa, in advocating the revised IMO GHG strategy and MAPOL Annex 6 that is in the best interest of women and sustainable development? So what is the role of the regions, WOMESA? Thank you and welcome.
Thank you, Madam Lydia. Am I audible?
Yes, you are.
All right, thank you. Welcome, everyone. Thank you. I am delighted to be part of this conversation, and happy International Women's Day to all of you. I also recognize our male participants as well in this. So as the previous panelists have been mentioning and explaining about the GHG strategy, we now have a very interesting and a very ambitious strategy in our hand in the maritime sector. And at the same time, it is an exciting strategy as well. Since the question is directed, the role of WOMESA in this aspect, WOMESA, as you mentioned, is an association of women in the maritime industry for Eastern and Southern Africa. When you look into the combination of Eastern and Southern Africa region, we have a very diverse interest in each nation as per their location and their maritime interests. The Eastern and Southern African region is a very diverse and interesting. If you take the eastern part is located in a very interesting and major maritime route, and the Southern Africa the same. And when you see the center, we have the small island states. So the combination is very diverse and very interesting. So we have strong port states, and we have women who are working in ports and in the shipping industry. So when we talk about the GHG strategy, they're more interested and focused on how to implement strategy and properly understand what the strategy is looking for in port states to control and regulate ships that are visiting their port. Coming to the technical aspects. For small island states, what they're looking for, the women who are working in small island states in our association are more interested in a very speedy implementation of the strategy, because their life is being impacted by the climate change and the level of sea, the challenge of their existence as a nation, as a country. And when we go to landlocked states, the landlocked nations are more interested and focused about the sea freights increase and the logistics cost, because whatever is happening in the sea and the implementation of the GHG strategy will definitely affect the sea freights, the logistics cost, and the entire supply chain of the maritime trade. So the landlocked nations are more concerned from that perspective. And we also have few shipping and seafaring nations and states in our members. When we look into those interests, they're more focused on the adoption of the new technology and training their seafarers to be well equipped with the knowledge of those new technologies that the strategy is bringing in. And when we talk about the GHG, we're also talking about using clean energy for the shipping industry. So those countries are more interested in this. So our women professionals in the maritime industry from our association have a very diverse and interestingly different opinion towards the GHG strategy. But the role of WMESA comes here. Whatever the interest of each nation is, all nations will go to the development of national action plan for the implementation of the GHG strategy at the end of the day. When those national action plans and policies and inclusion of the MARPOL Annex 6 to the national laws, the role of women, WMESA as a region comes in here. The first thing is advocacy. When nations develop their action plan for the implementation of GHG strategy and policies related to GHG strategy, we advocate, we lobby for the inclusion of the perspective of women in those national action plans.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Anene. And because we need to make sure that we are within the time limits, I will as well give the opportunity to Dr. Harry Conway to give us the backing of what particular trainings may women need to propel this subject matter of decarbonization. I repeat, what particular training may women need to propel this subject matter of decarbonization? Thank you, and I welcome you to the floor.
Thanks, Lelia. In terms of training, as I stated earlier, we may not need to, okay, let's say, firstly, probably when people talk about women involvement in maritime, they always look at seafaring. When they talk about underrepresentation, it's the seafarers. And you know, for seafaring, it's a task that demands so much physicality. However, when we talk about decarbonization, this is going to be a process that is going to be highly technical in terms of technology. So women now may start taking training in terms of engineering and science on the one hand. So you are now involved in the high-level technological capabilities that may be required to probably operate a vessel or to work aboard a vessel. So you are not there working to be lifting heavy cables or heavy things, but you are there sitting probably at a computer and trying to simulate the vessels in a way that it does not emit so much CO2. So that's one level of training. Another level of training, as Ramatu quietly stated, IMLE is carrying out training, and I'm sure women are involved in terms of maritime legislation and policy formulations. So women themselves have to get involved in this process to ensure that they are involved in drafting the legislation, they are involved in implementation of the legislation on the other hand, and how to ensure that their national administrations get the women involved in the entire process. So training at executive management level and middle management level is critical to the entire decarbonization process as far as formulation of measures and regulations are required. And on the other hand, in terms of implementation, when the measures, the technical measures, let me say, because they are both technical and economic, when the technical measures are being implemented, we can hope that women will also have the required skills that the transition requires. So women now need to start, or administration, let me say, administration now need to start thinking about training women in various expertise as far as the technology that may be required to enforce decarbonization aboard vessels.
Thank you. Thank you very much for the highlight. And I will circle back to Madam Ramat. In light of with what has been mentioned, what are some of the challenges that you envisage in the pursuit of women's inclusion in the decarbonization arena? from where you stand. Welcome, and I give you the floor.
Thank you again, Ms. Nkogi. Yes, the challenges are there and they continue to be there. Still we have the social norms, which are a challenge, the practices, the cultural barriers, which we sometimes think because we see ourselves in this forum, we think they have been broken, but these barriers are still there. And as far as it concerns us here as training arena, what really happens is that for students to study at IMLI, usually they have to be nominated by their administrations. So if it is they're going to come from the government nominated, maybe the Maritime Administration, maybe the Navy, maybe the ports, they have to be nominated. And this becomes an issue when it comes to nominating women to come for the training at IMLI. So that is a major challenge that we face. Now, this can only be solved in cases where we have women who are in these top positions, senior administrative positions, probably in the Maritime Administration and in other like positions that understand and believe in women. And they can have these women nominated to study at IMLI. And that is for us a major challenge. And we have faced challenges where even when women have been nominated to study at IMLI, women during the process have had to cancel or turn down the acceptance because in these cases, they have not been able to put together the structures that are required for them to leave home for an extended period of time, because studying or gaining a master usually would be that the woman have to leave home. So leaving home becomes a barrier to development, to personal development and taking a position. So we have had students turn down these fellowships because they cannot leave home because of family commitments, etc. So these are some of these major challenges, and these have to do not only with the fact that women may not be, women do not have the requisite training or education, which as training lawyers and people from the human resource perspective, they already have, but because sometimes cultural, social practices, etc., this becomes a barrier for them to leave and train at IMLI. And even when they leave after training and they go back home, it's sometimes in many cases, and we are seeing the changes now, but in many cases, it is a point where they don't go and attain leading positions befitting their qualifications that they have gone back home with. So in other words, somebody who is not in possession of that qualification still keeps the job, whereas the woman who's attained that qualification is prevented from coming into that situation. So it means the training here at IMLI then cannot be effectively implemented back home. So these are some of the challenges that I would raise.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Ramat, for that highlight. And as we wrap up, thank you. And as we wrap up the session, I'll have two more questions, one for Madam Sylvia and one for Madam Anene. And the question to Madam Sylvia is, what is WIMOCA doing to create awareness and promote decarbonization in the region? I repeat, what is WIMOCA doing to create awareness and promote decarbonization in the region? We give this in 1 minute so that we can move to the next speaker. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. WIMOCA is creating awareness at the high level and also at the lower level. At the high level, we are building capacity and we take advantage of every opportunity that is offered to, build capacity for ourselves. But we also believe that we need to encourage the young ones because of the numerous opportunities that we have within the sector. We have this policy of catch them young, So what we're doing is now to go down to the second cycle institution and encourage them to take up the STEM education, because that is where we have to start from. We encourage them, we make them aware of the opportunities within the sector and the need for us to decarbonize the sector, and the need for them to have the requisite training to be able to tap into all the opportunities that are available. So we encourage them to take up the STEM education, which they can build on for future growth and development. And of course, for those of us within, we still need to build capacity, and we take advantage of the opportunities that IMO offers, you know, for us to train ourselves. And we are pushing for at the governmental level, policies should be made available. We have to come out with policies that will train more women within the sector. Scholarship schemes should be made available, especially women in the institutions. We need to have scholarship schemes for them, and also have programs and scholarship programs for women within the industry who wants to improve upon themselves within the sector. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you very much for that highlight. And the question to Anene is, how does the revised IMO GHG strategy impact the WOMESA woman, looking at it keenly from the aspect of the small island developing states, the least developed states, and the landlocked states? And how can we encourage this to be into perspective in terms of implementation? Welcome to the floor, Anene.
Thank you, Lydia. I think I have highlighted some of the points in my previous discussion. And I would say that WOMESA is currently doing, we're making sure that our members, our women members in this profession, are well informed about the subject matter, what GHG strategy means, and we are sharing and circulating information and encouraging our members to participate in debates and discussions about this strategy. And also we're encouraging and supporting them to participate in trainings and scholarship opportunities in this. Now we're working in advocating for research and development, because we don't have enough research that are done which shows the aspect of women and the GHG strategy. When we talk even about the GHG strategy and women, we're not clear what to raise and what to say, because we don't have a well-researched and well-numbered information in this regard. The next thing is technology. I am excited about this strategy because this strategy will bring a new technology and development in the shipping sector. And as a women in this sector, if we are quick and ready to seize the opportunity and learn those new technologies ahead of everyone, we will have the chance to lead the sector. Thank you, Lydia.
Thank you, Anene. And as we wrap up the session, I'll give you half a minute each to give us your parting shots, literally half a minute each, and then we move to the next panel discussion. And we will start with Dr. Harry Conway with your parting shots. Welcome.
So to part with you people, I would say we look forward to seeing more women at the IMO delegations, especially as we go to MEPC 81 and 82 onward. I'll be looking out to see how many women are forming part of various delegations. And I will encourage national delegations to include men and women as much as possible. And I'll end up on what Ramatu just said, which is quite correct. The women, besides the women being trained, besides not even being promoted, at times they return home without even being deployed in the sector. So you cannot train people and then you are not using them when they get back home. It's critical that we make use of the knowledge and expertise they gain, besides promoting them to higher level positions.
Thank you very much. We move to Madam Asana, your half-minute parting shot.
What I want to say is that the issue of decarbonization is a global one, and we all have to get involved, women and men. But the women need more assistance. So we are pushing for more support, for more women inclusion in this field, and for more training and capacity building in the area. And we are also ready to collaborate and work with regional bodies, which we already belong, like with Abuja MOU, and then the Maritime Organizations of West and Central Africa, where we have observer status, we are pushing for more capacity building so that we'll be able to serve as an advocate. So we'll be able to advocate and champion the agenda for decarbonization in the region and Africa as a whole. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And now we move to Anene for your half-minute parting shots.
Thank you, Lydia. Mine is quick and short. When we say GAG strategy and implementation, we say no one should be left behind. Let's make sure that we're thinking of women in this point. Thank you.
Spot on. And last but not least, Madam Ramat Jallo.
Thank you, Lydia. I will quote Ruth Ginsburg when she says women belong in all places where decisions are being made. It cannot be that women are the exception. And we encourage the men to cooperate. This is not a competition, it is a cooperation where we all can get on board. And I'm happy to see from IMLI people like yourself, Lydia, people like Anene, and I saw Miata, and I'm sure there are other women from IMLI here, and shout out to you all for the great work that you're doing. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, esteemed panelists. This has been an exciting session 1, and we look forward to more engagements with you in the future. And right about now, we are going into the session 2 that will highlight women in decarbonization leading change. Please be online, and we will soon embark on this session 2. Thank you very much, and keep being online. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
For this particular session, we shall have the representation by the moderator, who is Faith Mwatembwe, who is as well a third engineer with the Carnival Cruise Line. She will be the able moderator for this session, and I will give her the floor where she will be able to welcome on board her panelists. Thank you and welcome, Faith.
Hello, everyone. As you've heard, my name is Faith Mola. I am an engineer for my Carnival Cruise Line. I will be a moderator for session 2 today, which is Women in Maritime Decarbonization Leading Change. And before we delve into our discussion, let's take a moment to introduce our esteemed panelists. First, we have Engineer Luke Samba, who is the Port State Controller Officer and Marine Engineer at Kenya Maritime Authority. Welcome, Engineer Luke. We also have Ms. Michelle Ndiga, who is the chairperson of the Society of Marine Engineers students at JKUAT. Welcome, Ms. Michelle. Also, we have Ms. Winnie Maina, who is the chairperson for BUMESA Kenya chapter. Welcome, Ms. Winnie. Okay, we're going to start off with straight to our questions to our panelists, and I will start with Engineer Luke Samba. What has been your experience as a seafarer and a Port State Controller Officer with regard to the participation of women in climate change and decarbonization of the shipping sector?
Thank you very much, Faith, and thank you very much to the MTCC Africa and IMO CARES for the arrangement of this webinar in celebration of the International Women's Day in 2024. Your question is regarding two aspects, the issue of seafarers and the issue of Port State Control, which is what I'm doing, and seafaring, which is what I was before. We are seeing an increase in the number of women seafarers, and I'm glad we have 2 seafarers on this panel. But I can say we have not attained gender equity in the maritime sector, particularly in the issue of seafaring. We are seeing that there's about 1.9 seafarers in the world, 1.9 million, but only about 2% are women. And a big portion of this are in the hospitality, in the cruise ships. and a very small portion in the deck and engine side. But so much has happened um, to see this increase. We are seeing some increase, but we are saying it's not good. It's not sufficient. And this increase has actually been informed by policy makers' decision to work on the participation of women as seafarers. We had the 2010 amendments to the STCW Convention, which one of them talked of attracting and retaining entrants to seafaring. And one of the targets of those who are being attracted and being retained was the women. And some of the aspects that were introduced was to avail, for example, cabins to cadets or on board the ship. And this has resulted in this small increase in the participation of women in seafaring. There has also been a great effort by the women themselves, those already in leadership positions and those who are intent on coming into seafaring to actually come in and contribute to be seafaring. And further, the outlook of seafaring is changing, and decarbonization is going to change it much further. And with the outlook changing, it is becoming more attractive for women to become seafarers and to work on board ships. With regards to port state control, I think in the past we were not having any women port state control officers in this part of the world. And this was informed mainly by the fact that the port state control officer is somebody who was previously a seafarer, a chief engineer, or a master mariner, and therefore it was not possible to get a woman port state control officer. But this has changed with the effort that I have highlighted to attract and retain women in seafaring. We are seeing some women port state control officers coming on board, particularly for the Indian Ocean region. And I'd like to point out South Africa, which has put in really dedicated effort to have women as port state control officers. This has also been informed by the shift of focus from not only deck and engine, chief engineer, master mariner, to the human element aspect of port state control, dealing with the Maritime Labor Convention and the rest, and therefore the need to have these women as port state control officers on board. As I conduct port state control in Mombasa, nowadays I see more female seafarers on board the ships as cadets, as junior officers, and it's really encouraging. And some of them are coming from countries and cultures which in the past we did not see as being a source of seafaring, that the women from these countries or from these cultures would pursue seafaring as a career, and it is really encouraging. But regarding the issue of decarbonization, the encouragement of women participation in seafaring in the maritime sector is coinciding with the move toward carbonization. And this, therefore, I see as an opportunity for women to piggyback and to join in the droves, because it's becoming, as Dr. Harry Conway said, it is no more about physicality. It is becoming more attractive and more about the brain as opposed to, muscle power and the rest. And therefore, if this happens and women participate more in the as seafarers and in the decarbonization journey, I believe we will attain the just equitable transition that is espoused in the IMO strategy that is addressing GHG emissions from ships. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Engineer Luke, for your insight about the human participation in decarbonization. Next question, I'm going to ask Ms. Michelle. Kindly tell us how youth can be involved in the development and implementation of decarbonization strategies and action plans within the maritime industry. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Faith. I'd like first to say thank you for this opportunity to be part of this conference. I'd say as a youth, first of all, I'd like to say that stakeholders are the ones that can harness, us as young people. We bring new ideas, we bring new perspective to the table. So I feel like stakeholders should come to us and involve us so that they can harness the creativity, the energy and passion of young people so that they're able to accelerate the progress towards a more sustainable and resilient maritime sector. Apart from that, I'd say we'd also require representation in the advisory boards, the committees, and the task force that can influence policy developments and implementation. So we're supposed to be encouraged to participate in more dialogues, in consultation, as well as decision-making processes related to maritime decarbonization, and also so that we can give our perspective and priorities so that they're taken into account. I'd also say that we can have youth-led organizations and networks so that we can come together and bring our ideas together. And this, by creating these organizations and networks, we can also partner with various stakeholders, the various academic institutions and nonprofit organizations so that we can foster innovation, knowledge exchange, and capacity building. We also, us as the youth, we are also called to create awareness about the importance of the maritime sector as a whole and the importance of decarbonization and mobilizing the support, from mobilizing people to get to know more about this sector. And this can be assisted by the government agencies, the stakeholders, and also the public at large. So by doing this and creating such events, we'll be able to amplify our voices as young people in the maritime sector.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much for the insights, Ms. Michelle. My next question goes to Ms. Wimi, who's the chairperson of UMESA. Kindly tell us how UMESA is supporting the maritime women can you tell us how UMESA is supporting the maritime women break industry barriers in relation to decarbonizations whilst working with the industry partners?
Thank you so much, Faith, and of course, MTCC Africa for organizing this very worthy workshop in relation to decarbonization and women involvement. Just a correction, it's a chairperson of UMESA Kenya, the Kenya National Chapter, because my president is here taking lead at the regional level. So my input here today is in relation to the Kenyan case, and basically a Kenyan case, a Kenyan study. So as UMESA Kenya, how we support the maritime women in order to break the industry barriers, and how we also work with the industry partners. And for fear of sounding like a broken record in relation to what my predecessors have spoken about, we emphasize more on capacity building, knowledge management, and communication. We sensitize not only women and men, but on the opportunities available in basically the maritime sector, and specifically in relation to what is taking place in the decarbonization sector, how it overlaps and the intersection with the maritime industry and climate change, and its overall impact to a sustainable blue economy. We also try to create synergies with all stakeholders in relation to addressing decarbonization and gender equality as one aspect, not as two separate distinct issues, because then we'll have an integrated approach where this is not seen as a women issue alone, but as an issue that will affect and impact the general global economy. We have various forums for doing this, and our best practice so far is how we were integrated into the Mombasa Port and Northern Corridor Charter as WOMESA, and just being able at that level to influence how these aspects can affect and can impact the overall logistics chain in the charters corridor. So based on that, women get to know how we can be able to just stand and take the lead in matters of decarbonization. We also emphasize on access to training, and I must appreciate IMO at this juncture for the opportunities that they have accorded the various women in Kenya, whether being WOMESA members or not, in terms of just empowering them and through the fellowships and scholarships and short courses in relation to various issues in the maritime sector, including decarbonization, where we see women being trained on ISPS code implementation of the FAL, which is basically the instrument, the major instrument that we are looking at in terms of digitalization of the shipping processes. And also currently what we are seeing in the GHG strategy, where at the regional level, WOMESA has been able to cascade this down to the national level. And I believe the trainings that will be able to come out of this, Kenyan members will be able to participate. In terms of policy development, we have also seen ourselves taking the lead in terms of how to implement what is at the international level and bring it down here to the national level, and basically just to see how a local woman will be able to be a beneficiary of the shipping industry and how to implement the GHG strategy, for example, how to implement FAL. And we're able to see, as Luke already alluded to, that now we are moving more into a lot of digitalization. So how can women position themselves towards that aspect? As I wind up on that question, what else we have been able to do is basically participation and engagement of women, even in not only at that high level of the high shipping industry, but even to include local community and fisher folk in terms of activities that are geared towards renewable energy and cleaner use of available energy to mitigate environmental degradation, where we participate in activities like mangrove planting. And this just creates awareness from the local people all the way up the chain that this is how we are moving and this is how we want to shift to cleaner energies. And last but not least, our flagship project, which is the mentorship, where we just go to secondary schools and tertiary schools to give available opportunities for women in the maritime to be able to take up these spaces to ensure that we are able to achieve greater diversity and complementarity from an earlier age. We encourage students at high school level to take up the STEM courses, which will better their chances at pursuing the marine engineering and such like courses with inclination towards electric engineers and technicians. We have also partnered with the various tertiary institutions, including the TVET institutions, where we are able to see an uptake of courses in even with ship repairs and vessel building. And we are hoping that together with what is coming up at the GHG strategy, and I love what Dr. Conway was able to allude to, that we want to see an intake of ship repair where they are building vessels that now will emit less carbon dioxide, which will be able to be incorporated even at a national level. So we're able to see even small VTCs and polytechnics, which before would not take up these courses, are able to take up these courses, and we are encouraging women to take up in that. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Madam Winnie. Now, because of time, I'm going to go straight ahead to the parting shots for our panelists. And I'm going to start with Engineer Luke. If you can give us your parting shot.
Thank you very much, Faith. I think the outlook for women is good, and the opportunity to take part in this journey of decarbonization is there. And with their participation, we'll be able to achieve gender diversity. We'll be able to have the complementarity that is required. There'll be an expansion of the pool of skills that is required for this decarbonization journey. And we will finally achieve what the strategy of the IMO talks of, just equitable transition that leaves no one behind, including the women. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Engineer Luke, for that. And we'll move straight to Ms. Michelle. Kindly give us your parting shot.
I'd say first, there's need to create awareness of the maritime courses, because you find that in most instances for us who are currently doing maritime related courses, when you're talking to people casually, they have no knowledge about what exactly this maritime thing entails. So there's need to create awareness, and this can be done by starting, as well as also, I think, the students who are currently, let's say, in high schools, in primary schools, they're also not aware of it. So this could start by, creating awareness by sending people who are currently in the various fields to encourage them to take up the STEM related courses, and specifically marine, related courses, because I believe there are very many opportunities out there for all of us. And another thing is also to have a situation where we have several forums that bring people who are already in the industry, so that they can encourage us, especially for female students. They need that kind of encouragement and motivation, so that they can continue pursuing the course, and having in mind that they'll be placed somewhere in the world, and the efforts that they're putting will not go in vain. So yeah, that is my parting shot, and yeah, thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Michelle. We'll go to our next panelist, Ms. Winnie Maina, for your parting shot.
Thank you so much, Faith. Basically, in line with the WOMESA vision and mission to be able to promote active participation of women in the maritime sector and be considered as a key contributor to the sustainable blue economy and its development, as WOMESA Kenya, we definitely want to look forward in terms of working through proactive and innovative solutions, and basically just working with the industry in terms of, and what Michelle has alluded to, what can be done better, where can we change. And I like what even Engineer Samba said, there has been a lot of conversion, people moving from seafaring to now becoming port state control officers. So that is what we are looking forward as a WOMESA, to just be able to see how these proactive technologies can be able to bring us to a better place in this new frontier of maritime decarbonization, but even alone, not only as women, but as the whole society, women, men, and youth, as the theme this year just alludes to, inspire inclusion. We don't want to walk alone. We want to walk with the gentlemen and the youth, so that to ensure we are having a holistic industry, and also that investment in these processes and in these areas will also create opportunities that will accelerate progress and make sustainable gains for the entire global economy. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Madam Winnie. And that will be it from our session. I hope you all are very well enlightened from panelists. And once again, thank you very much.
Ladies and gentlemen, we are now in the third session, where we will be having session 3 coming on board. And at this juncture, I wish to highlight that session 3 is titled Women in Maritime, Navigating Decarbonization in line with the United Nations SDG 5. The moderator for this panel session is Engineer John Akumu. Engineer John Akumu is the Senior Projects Engineer at the Kenya Ports Authority. He is as well an MTCC Africa technical expert. I welcome him to the floor, and I give him this opportunity to bring on board the esteemed panelists as part of the program. Thank you and welcome, John.
Thank you very much, Madam Lydia. Thank you to all the delegates, to all the women. Happy International Women's Day. Enjoy the day tomorrow. Shortly, we'll have the panelists on the screen so that I'm able to introduce them. So we are in session 3, which is Women in Maritime, Navigating Decarbonization in line with SDG 5. Karibuni sana to the panelists. With us here, we have Dr. Omar Ofodile. Welcome. Dr. Omar is the Deputy Director, Maritime Environment Management Department, NIMASA, and also MTCC Africa Focal Point. Karibu sana, you're welcome. Then we have Ms. Sepiso Twaona, who is the IMO representative of gender. You're welcome, madam. Sorry, Ms. Sepiso is the Chief Director, Maritime Safety, Security and Environment, Department of Transport, South Africa. And then we have Ms. Miata Fatima, who is the IMO representative of gender. Welcome, panelists. Thank you so much. So we are going to just go straight into the questions. I will ask that we just take the shortest time possible because we have a bit of questions to go through. Maybe around 3 to 4 minutes per question. I think that will be enough to help us go through in the required time. So our first question will go to Ms. Sepiso. As women in maritime, how do we prepare for opportunities in energy efficiency programs and ensure that no one is left behind? Let me repeat again. As women in maritime industry, how do we prepare for opportunities in energy efficiency programs and ensure that no one is left behind? Welcome.
Thank you. Good afternoon and good morning to the colleagues on the platform. As indicated, my name is Sepiso from South Africa. And as the opportunities are presented for us as women, we have to be cognizant of that. This is a forever changing climate environment in terms of the decarbonization is now the new buzzword. I think I also heard the word dimension, quite a number of speakers referring to digitalization as well. But as women, in order for us now to adapt to the forever changing environment, we need to be cognizant that knowledge is critical. And then as we build that knowledge, it also builds our confidence as women. I heard Dr. Conway saying that we cannot be trained and not be used. And then that is the issue that we have to capacitate ourselves in terms of saying that our personal and professional development, we must invest in ourselves, we must invest in our counterparts. We should not be selfish as women to promote that issue of taking the personal development. There are new insights in terms of this decarbonization and then the aspects when it comes to this topic. Then we have to stay competitive and then ahead of our peers because we all know that there is a saying in maritime or in shipping that this is a man's world. It is upon us to be able now to kill that notion of that this is a maritime or this is a man's world. As we go through into the new horizon, as we go through into the new learning areas, we have to attend those workshops, whether online or in physical. As women, we tend maybe look for those ones where we go physically. It is important for us to even show our presence in these online platforms. And then I'm encouraged to see that there are at least about 81 participants. It was about 89 at one stage in this platform, and that's encouraging from all fronts and then from all corners of Africa and then abroad. And as we stay competitive, it means that we are able to make meaningful contribution as women in this global environment of shipping. And then other thing is saying that an opportunity is about capacity building, it is about team building, and then it is about mentorship. We should be able as women, we must, I'm just want to emphasize that one, that we must do the things for ourselves in order for those things to happen. The strategies around maritime or cleaner shipping in terms of the decarbonization, in terms of the IMO GHG strategy for the reduction, it is about saying that at what level as women can we now be able to identify those opportunities, then take them forward. But apart from that, it is about passion, and then it is about our resilience in terms of then that competitiveness, because without those two elements with regard to passion and resilience, then we are not going to be able to take those opportunities forward. They will come, but then at the end of the day, we let them go because we think we are not capable as women. We still want to say that at the end, this unleashing of our full potential in terms of us as women, it is about to say that as we recognize, as we celebrate tomorrow, the International Women's Day, the theme for tomorrow, it says invest in women, and then we must be able to accelerate that progress. It is upon us, and nobody else will give us those opportunities and then guide us throughout. Once we are given the opportunity, we have to run through with that opportunity and then realize the dream that we would want to be in this whole value chain. I will just take a pause there. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much, madam. Thank you for sharing your insights. We have to run with the opportunity once it presents itself. We move on to Dr. Omar. Yes, Dr. Omar, one question to you. As member state, do you think IMO is doing enough in achieving women inclusion in maritime issues? I can repeat again, as member state, do you think IMO is doing enough in achieving women inclusion in maritime issues? Thank you. Kindly unmute.
Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for having me. I am Dr. Omar, as earlier said, and I work with the Nigerian Maritime Administration and Safety Agency. Well, the question is has been answered. Reason being that the earlier speakers made very very good emphasis on this issue. IMO is doing quite enough, but there's a room for improvement. Mr. Harry, in his earlier presentations, had made known to us all IMO is doing towards encouraging women and all the activities they've laid out to ensure that women are included, especially when we are talking about the transition to a more efficient energy fuel for the maritime sector. And so what is left of women now is to organize themselves and embrace the opportunity that has been thrown up by IMO. There are a lot of platforms out there, and MTCC is one of them. I thank Lydia for the effort she's been putting in so much to ensure that women are involved in all her activities. She has, tried to bring up a lot of capacity buildings and all with women inclusion. It didn't just start today, because I recall when we had a workshop in Seychelles, the women in Africa from Congo, they were all there in very large numbers. And so what we should be talking about now is the stage is set. What are we as women doing to dance well on it? And so everything we need is in place for us. There are so many opportunities, but we also need to continue drumming up advocacy for this. We need to look in depth and see the things we can do to encourage women, build up incentives, because maritime it's a very technical field. And for women to come on board most of the activities, there's need for a lot of encouragement. It's not even all about the physical aspect of seafaring. You talk about the technical aspect that needs a lot of scientific work. So there is need for more capacity building for women, and IMO is really doing a lot, but there's still more to be done. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Dr. Omar. There's still more work to be done. Thank you so much. I move to Ms. Fatima. And a question to you, Ms. Fatima, how can we prepare for agenda just transition to net zero, which harnesses women's skill? I repeat, how can we prepare for agenda just transition to net zero, which harnesses women's skills? You're welcome.
Thank you very much. Well, the maritime industry by itself, as we may be aware, is already male-dominated, and we as women are already behind the ball. We're now trying to catch up. We're now trying to get equal representation even in the industry. I think at this time, it is incumbent upon us not to be left behind, because the whole transition into net zero is a whole new thing. And I feel strongly that it is a space where women can now be ahead of the A ball. We don't have to wait for the men to go and dominate all the businesses or the things that will be available and then come later to try to catch up. So as we transition to net zero, it is important that we make policies that harnesses women's skills and energy. These policies should incorporate an understanding of the women's current position in the workforce and the barriers that they face. There is a dire need to address women's economic empowerment, and it is incumbent upon us in Africa to incorporate it into any workforce planning that may be arising before the transition. In this preparation, it is important that we understand the barriers faced by women through improving data collection. We should collect more data on women in the workforce and engage women workers, representatives, and within the community. We should also increase women's access to finance and technology. Through financial digital literacy, we can improve the access to education and women's participation in STEM subjects to enable them to access new technology, as well as land rights. We can promote women leadership and engage and support women organizations as it relates to GSG. We can also promote a gender-just transition to net zero, which will take into consideration, maybe if we take a people-centered approach by including social equity in mandatory climate change disclosure. We can encourage businesses to adapt gender-sensitive working practices to overcome barriers to women participation, including providing flexible working hours or childcare support and travel provisions. Because we as women, we're not excluded from our roles as mothers. We are mothers, we are home giver, and generations to come, we're not going to be exempted from these roles. So if businesses or government institution can put these facilities into place where it can help us have a good work-life balance, it will help more women to come. We can also facilitate sectoral collaboration and learning. So make sure that women get involved by providing measures and incentivizing their responsibilities within the role as well. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Ms. Fatima. I like the point you mentioned that we are, the transition, the energy transition is actually just a new field, especially in our region, and it provides a level playing field for both genders, where we can all start and women can take their place in that sector. Thank you so much. I move on to maybe just a note to the IT team. Kindly, if you can, add Dr. Oma back to the screen. I believe she can still hear, but she's not on the screen. So if you can add her back to the screen. I move on to Ms. Sepiso. And the question we are looking at now is looking into research that stems from MET. Do you think that as women in developing countries, we are empowered to realize economic, environment, and social sustainability? Over to you, madam.
Thank you, Mr. Okumu. I do believe that one way or the other, we are empowered. It is the level of maybe where we are in the organization that will make the determination in terms of our contribution in the bigger picture of things. But overall, that empowerment is there. I think in 2019, we celebrated as the member states of the IMO this empowerment deal. And then other people that are of the view that it is taking ground. And then I also want to say that, yes, we are empowered. However, it is now upon those who are around the round table in the boardrooms, to make sure that we have got at least tangible deliverables in terms of the contribution that we can make now that we are empowered. I will go back to the words of other speakers who are saying that it doesn't make sense for you to empower us, and then at the end of the day, you sideline us when it comes to then the work that needs to be done or the actions that needs to be implemented. So I would also say that research is also critical in terms of saying that how then do we still elevate this issue regarding then promoting women to be more empowered, and then at the end of the day, that leadership will come to the already women who are around, once again, who are around the round table, to make sure that there is change management that we implement, and then we must be able to add more value in terms of the capacity building of the state. We cannot do that without the support of men in most cases, and then we appreciate that we have got men again in this platform. But at the end of the day, let us all learn to work together as a team. Let us be well coordinated. Let us be able to realize those opportunities in terms of collaboration, and make sure that whatever that is of the SDGs, more especially when it comes to empowerment, it is a goal that is that can be achieved. And then as we do that, want to say that the longer we delay this empowerment to another level, because I think one thing that we can say about empowerment is that you must empower people to be able to be leaders at the end of the day. They must be part of the decision-making ladder, and then otherwise it does not work.
Thank you so much, Madam. People who have been empowered, so enable them to be leaders. Thank you so much. And collaboration is very important. Thank you so much for your insights. On to Ms. Fatima. From the IMO gender perspective, is there adequate effort from the IMO to avail opportunities for women empowerment and inclusion on issues of maritime decarbonization, and also see developing countries as team players? Yes, Madam.
Okay. From the IMO perspective, I think some things have been done, but more needs to be done. So in speaking to the word adequate, I don't think we will ever have adequate unless we stop having this discussion. As long as we're still having this discussion about empowering women and ensuring safe spaces for women, whether it's in decarbonization or just women in maritime sector in general, it means we have not reached the level of adequacy yet. But a lot of things have been done. I know IMO is at the point where they have started having courses in greenhouse gas emission for the various delegations, including that of developing countries especially, and how we can learn from what is coming, how we can tackle it, and all of that. These opportunities are being provided. Is it adequate? I would say no. I think more needs to be done. I think looking at it from a female perspective, we need to, like I said previously, jump on this new ship. We should not wait for it to become an unequal platform where we're now behind the eight ball, but we can take advantage of the opportunities that are being provided and then learn from it, make sure we put ourselves in the space where we are not, again, crying when the ship is sailed. We need to get on board just the same way as our male counterparts are getting on board. And from the perspective of a developing country, when it comes to greenhouse gas, we're going to be mostly impacted because, one, we're very far from our markets. Most of our economies do not produce things to sustain itself. From Liberia, for instance, we import a lot of goods and services. What can we do when slow steaming comes into place? How is it going to affect our pricing? Who's going to pay? Even if we're not a polluter, we are a country of, we are a coastal state. How is that going to affect my people? How is it going to affect my economy? How can I put myself in a space where I am not so impacted these are the kind of conversations that we need to be having, and the IMO through MTCC Africa and other platforms are initiating these conversations. It should not just be a conversation that we have, but it should be a conversation that we have that translates into policy documents, that translates into effect, even at the grassroots level. So we as actors should ensure that we can buttress the efforts of the IMO, of our governments, of our policymakers, and ensure that we are on board so that we're not, once again, left behind. Because whether we prepare or not, greenhouse gas emission going towards net zero is coming. So we just need to put ourselves in a space where we can. So adequate is not the word that I will use, but I would say that modalities are in place and maybe we should take advantage of them, and then also advocate for more, because as women, especially from developing countries, from Africa, we are several steps behind. So this is our chance, I would say.
Thank you so much, madam. Part of what you shared is really looking at the transition that we are making to decarbonize our sector. Actually, globally in all sectors, GHG reduction is really taking shape. And as you've noted so well, that as developing countries, we may not be adequately endowed in the technological know-how, especially when you look at even alternative sources of fuels or green energy. We may not be very adequately endowed in technology, and this leads us to our next question. And this next question is to, I think, to all of the panelists. So our question is, funding is a major hurdle to unlock innovation in maritime decarbonization. How do you think developing countries can overcome this challenge? I will repeat, funding is a major hurdle to unlock innovation in maritime decarbonization. How do you think developing countries can overcome this challenge? I will start with Ms. Sepiso. Madam, you're welcome.
Thank you once again, Chairperson. I think we are looking into saying that this issue regarding decarbonization does not come cheap. I will share with you my experiences when it comes to funding. I have got a company that would want to do biofuels as an alternative fuel here in South Africa. I think we've been knocking on institutions, financial institutions, one door to another, and then we have, it's been now 3 years, and that's why then it goes back to the issue of saying that you can have an opportunity, but at the end of the day, there are those hurdles that we have. It's not only about opportunity. It's a myriad of things that one has to look into and then be able to overcome. That's why then we say that passion and resilience are important. We need some kind of policy reviews that have to happen across mostly in the seas, whether it's in the seas or in the least developed countries. When you do that one in terms of the policy reviews, my own treasury does not allow the set asides for women, but then it's something that we need to encourage. That's why I'm saying that all the women leaders, as we sit down on the boardrooms, encourage some of the things that we think that will allow the sector to thrive in the presence of women. Let us get ourselves into some of the global value chains. I know there is one that is called under the World Forum, that is called the Getting to Zero Coalition. If you look into the Getting to Zero and then their mandate as well as their vision, it's all about getting people together to collaborate and then looking for those funding avenues. But then if you get into the nitty-gritty of then how then do we unfold this funding, it is a mammoth task, and for women, you cannot do it alone. You need other women to support you, or you even need other men to support it. So it is about getting those the global value chains. You should get them right. Let us look into the propositions from organizations that are already in the space, like the Getting to Zero Coalition, and then as women. We need to be part of those triple Ps in terms of the private-public partnerships as women. How do we get that into those ones, into that space? And then we should make sure that we are not left behind. I think this whole the UNFCCC things in terms of and the SDGs about leaving no one behind. It is also to say that let us not be left behind as women. We need to have a better understanding of the consequences of these weather patterns in terms of the GHG emissions, in terms of then what is our contribution as a maritime sector. It has been said that we contribute about 3% of the GHG emitters as the shipping industry or maritime industry. But then at the end of the day, how then do we capitalize on that 3% and then turn that 3% into a financial benefit for us to realize as women? So it is work that we need to go into then saying that we need to do more research. We need to be able to have the know-how. I think it's also important. There is nobody who would want to give you money when you are not sure, and then you come up with a proposal that is found wanting. Some person will come with a one-pager proposal and say that is a proposal. Nobody will give you their 24 billion to fund your vision. It might be a good vision, but then as long as it is not well structured. So it also saying that we must be able to draw up funding proposals that can be looked into and then can be evaluated for us to be able to get those monies from the big financial institutions. At the end of the day, we need to find those investment partners, and then as you do that one is to say, saying we should be invited to those roundtables. Let us make sure that we can be able to now start putting our dreams into reality in terms of decarbonization. It looks like something that is easy to do, but at the end of the day, we should also be cognizant of to say that decarbonization is very technical as well when it comes to the implementation part of it. If you look into the some of the elements in terms of the low carbons, people are already exercising, putting research together in terms of then how does methanol work, how does ammonia work, and then at the end of the day, LNG, how does it work? At the end of the day, it is that continuous development or personal development in terms of training and retraining and redevelopment as women, as not only as individuals, but as a team, so that you can be able then to capitalize on saying that the funding that comes, it usually would come to a team rather than an individual.
Thank you so much, Madam. Thank you for your great insights. You've talked about collaboration, you've talked about training, research and development, and so many other things. And as we move to the next panelist, I'll welcome Dr. Omar. I'll just read for you the question that we are answering. It's a question to all of us. So just to prepare you, I will read to you the question, and then we move to Ms. Fatima to share her point. So the question is, funding is a major hurdle to unlock innovation in maritime decarbonization. How do you think developing countries can overcome this challenge? So I'll go to Madam Fatima and then back to Dr. Omar. You're welcome, Madam.
That Madam is me, yeah? Okay.
Yes,
okay.
yes.
Funding is going to remain a challenge. So it's good that we're having this discussion. I think one way we can overcome the hurdle of funding is first by reaching out to our international partners, looking for international funding, seeking funding from international organizations such as the World Bank, the Green Climate Fund, regional development banks. They all provide financial assistance for climate change, because now it's a big topic and countries are now making sure that everyone is on board. I think it's a great chance that developing countries can use to make proposals to these various institutions. And like our previous speaker said, you have to make sure your proposal is weighty enough to be able to generate the funding that you need. We can also get involved in public-private partnership to foster partnership between governments, the private sector entity, because with shipping, it's more of a commercial, it's a business in as much as it has to do with various governments. So if we can go into public-private partnership, that is government to private entities, international organization to private entities, in order to come together as developing country, we can take advantage of that to harness resources that are within the expertise of investors as it relates to decarbonization. We can also use technology transfer, that is facilitate technology transfer and knowledge sharing partnership with various developing countries and international organizations. So they have knowledge that we need. Now is the time that we jump on this band and take advantage of all of these things, because when we come into full net zero, we can't come back and of course we're still going to complain because it's not a level playing field, but we can mitigate the gap by taking into consideration various technology transfers that we can make use of. We can also make use of incentives and subsidies. That is, we can provide financial incentives, subsidy, and tax breaks for investment. So small businesses that try to come up with ideas and innovation to help in decarbonization, as a government, we can provide them with incentives to say, hey, if your company go green or into the way of decarbonization, we can give you a tax break. This will help more people to start up small businesses because of these incentives. We cannot overemphasize the need for capacity building. We have to improve access to finance, to capacity. We cannot go into something blind. If we don't have the education, let's build our capacity so that we can be able to get it. Let's have training programs to enhance the skills and knowledge that we need as stakeholders, because as government officials, as business entity, as industry professionals, as researchers, we need all these skills. Let's make use of whatever skill that is being provided right now in order for us to be knowledgeable when we need to implement this. We can also have the policy and regulatory support. That is, implement supportive policy and regulatory frameworks that provide clarity and incentives for investments in the maritime decarbonization, including emission reduction targets, carbon pricing and mechanism, and regulation promoting the use of cleaner fuels and technology. By adapting these strategies, developing countries can overcome funding challenges and unlock the innovation that they desire.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Ms. Fatima, for your insights. You've brought up the aspect of PPPs. You brought out the aspect of capacity building and so much. Thank you for the insights. There is a question that Mary has asked to Madam Sepiso, and there's a reply. Before we move to Doctor, I'll just ask Madam Sepiso to kindly read the reply, answer Mary, so that we can move ahead to Daktari. Thank you.
Thank you. I have replied to Mary to say that we need to raise awareness in terms of the opportunities available in decarbonization. There are down the stream opportunities, not maybe at the inception of the project, but then at the end of the day, it is for us now to also reach out to those illiterate women in their rural corners. I do believe that you can say the illiteracy is coming from the rural people who are not exposed, and then they are illiterate in the sense that they are not aware, and then they don't have knowledge of then how do they advance their ideas. And then it is now for us to reach out and then be able to put those ideas, because surprisingly enough, these people that we sometimes that are in the rural space, they engage with these things, and then they have got their own little solutions that, you know, they have not been maybe put to the state or into advanced into large scale solutions. And then you can be able to develop, assist them to develop their ideas, and then see if they are not going to be able to work as solutions in terms of decarbonization. But at the end of the day, there must be inclusivity, in a sense that we should not go out do outreach or awareness program, and then they give their ideas, and then at the end of the day, as learned people, then we come and steal those ideas. That is all about inclusion. So it is possible. Let us do those awareness. Let us now be able to be inclusive as we do that outreach as well. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Ms. Sepiso. Welcome, Dr. Omar. I want to request you kindly, if possible, if you can take two questions that ago. You dropped out a bit, and we've moved ahead. So I'll read the two questions. One is the initial question that I read, and then I'll read the second question. If you can mix them up into two so that we can catch up. So the first question is, funding is a major hurdle to unlock innovation in maritime decarbonization. How do you think developing countries can overcome this challenge? And then as you hold on that, the next question is, as MTCC focal point, do you think MTCC is giving the needed opportunity for women empowerment and inclusion on issues of maritime decarbonization? And also, do you see your country as a team player on this? So kindly, Dr. Omar. Kindly unmute. You're muted.
Sorry, thank you for having me back. I had a bit of technical challenge and it kind of disorganized me. I'm using another system now. Going straight to the question. My fellow panelists, I think they've said so much, and I won't have to run over what they said again on the funding. But there's an aspect I would like to bring on board. Access to finance, need a lot of capacity building. There are a lot of green funds out there for grabs, but then there are procedures towards accessing these funds. So capacity building, awareness creation, all those factors must be put into consideration if funding must be easy and made available to most of these countries. And also, when you look at what is happening in climate change, we have tackled the, the world is moving towards the market-based measure. And when you talk about the operational, the technical, then now we are talking about the market-based measure. Carbon credits. How is it also going to help the developing countries? It's no longer a situation of, we have crisis of climate change. What opportunities are there in these crises? And as such, there is need for a lot of capacity building on issues of carbon credit, carbon offset. Because if you are able to sell your carbon and you're able to make enough, you can use it to reinvest back into other climate projects. Yes, there are green funds available all over the world globally for you to access. But this is also another avenue. And of course, countries should look inwards also, creating and making available, making their budgets robust for easy assessment of climate groups, so that they can also embrace most of these climate activities and projects and move actions on it. For instance, in Nigeria, we have a budget planning office, and they make provision for enough budget for any organization, MDA, or whatever initiative that may need to access such budget provisions for their projects. But then all these things need a lot of works. You have to know the process, the procedure, and of course the awareness must get to the right people so they will know that such things also exist. So, and when it comes to I move on to the next question, which talks about the MTCC. Well, we are here today because MTCC, liaising with IMO, brought this program on board. And this is one out of so many they have been doing, like I mentioned earlier. MTCC is doing quite a lot in bringing awareness creation to many issues bordering on decarbonization. In fact, last year, Nigeria had a regional workshop that MTCC came to Nigeria and they held a regional workshop on biofouling. And we all know how biofouling impacts on greenhouse gas emission reduction. And that was a very good training. We had a lot of women that participated at that event. And likewise, they have other like events that they have been doing in other regions of Africa, parts of Africa. Now, we for Nigeria, the last question you asked about Nigeria, I would like you to repeat it again just to bring me up to
Yes, Doctor. Yes, Dr. Oma, and maybe just if you can kindly wind up in 30 seconds. The last question about Nigeria was, how do you see, also, do you see your country as a team player? So in 30 seconds, just do you see your country as a team player in MTCC as a focal point? Yes, Dr. Oma, did you get the question?
Can I pick it? Is anyone?
Yes.
Hello.
Hello.
We
Hello.
can hear you.
I think she has a challenge with the speakers. Kindly, because of time, we want to wind up.
I can't hear anything.
Sorry. I think the ICT team will get back to Dr. Oma. We want to wind up. So in 10 seconds, sorry, our time is far much spent, but in 10 seconds, can we have both Ms. Sepiso and Ms. Fatima, Ms. Sepiso to go first, just a parting shot in 10 seconds.
Thank you for this opportunity, and then to the MTCC Africa as well as the IMO CARES. We are grateful for this opportunity to allow women to engage and then share what kind of opportunities, what kind of insight we can share in terms of this maritime decarbonization, and then as well as then how then do we see as ourselves contributing to the implementation of the IMO GHG strategy. So on that note, it is for us now to collaborate. It is for us now to reinvest in ourselves and then to make sure that there is leadership in order to get or grab those opportunities in maritime decarbonization. Thank you, and then thanks to the audience.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I want to use this time to thank Lydia and her team for putting this together. Like we've been saying, this is the beginning of it all. This is where it starts. I want to thank her for her continuous push for Africa. I remember this morning when she said, Fatima, I know you're going to be in the same place with the SG. I need you to say, I'm like, Lydia, you never get tired advocating for Africa. We appreciate this. Having these kinds of conversations and these kinds of forums is just the beginning, and it helps us get at the back of our mind that we need to look at Africa in different ways. For example, when it comes to maritime decarbonization, we need to have this conversation. We need to make sure that we keep pushing for various policy fundings and whatever we can do to put ourselves on track as it relates to decarbonization. And I'm very grateful to Lydia and her team and the IMO CARES program for this conversation or this panel or the opportunity for us to share our knowledge.
Thank you very much, Fatima, for the highlights. I think we may be having another internet challenge with John Akumu. because he seems to be having a freeze wherever he is. But I see that we are at the tail end of this very lovely and inciting forum. And I'll take this opportunity to give closing remarks on behalf of the MTCC Africa Secretariat. And with this, I would like to thank you all for staying online. Appreciation to all the panelists and moderators, and as well to the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, who are the main funders of the IMO CARES program. The IMO CARES program stands for Coordinated Actions in the Reductions of Emissions in the Maritime Industry. As well, appreciation to Ambassador Nancy, who gave us opening remarks, and the J.K. Watt host institution. And at MTCC, we will make sure that we avail the pre-recording that got the Internet Challenge, and the MTCC Africa Secretariat will support this. Appreciation to the Secretariat as well. We have been working round the clock. As we support SDG 5 for sustainable development, the role of women in decarbonization ought to be harnessed more, especially towards a gender-just transition period. As rightfully mentioned, all members in this program have had the good opportunity to see what the panelists have had to offer, with notions that are in line with supporting women. We are all aware that women inclusion in the maritime industry brings out the fact that intellect has no gender. And we do support the fact that men have to be on board in understanding the challenges that women go through in making sure that we meet objectives. In the Africa region, women in careers go through unexplainable challenges in their bid to support organizations and careers meet their mission, visions, and objectives. As I conclude, I'd like to echo the words that have been highlighted by members in this forum, and as well, I would like to highlight the words of the International Maritime Organization Secretary General during the 2003 Maritime CEO Conference. And I quote, that we stand for women, we stand by all principles, and this is the essence of work as we focus on skills of listening, empathy, respect, comprehension, eloquence, and compromise. And I think this makes sense when I was making sure to inform Fatima when she's in the panel that was held at the IMO to put Africa in the forefront. And I'm confident that she did it. And with this, I'd like to thank you all, panelists and participants who have been present in this forum. Once again, we sincerely apologize for the internet challenges. These are some of the ways that we are connecting internationally, and we look to improve in the next sessions. And with this, I wish you all a happy International Women's Day tomorrow, and we look forward for more engagements as we promote decarbonization in the maritime and shipping industry, especially in Africa. I thank you all, and I wish you a good day. Thank you and goodbye. Thank you.